Hey ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to look at Unit 2, Notes 2. We are going to simplify radicals again, only this time you're going to have variables with it. So remember your perfect squares. These are going to be those numbers that you need to memorize. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, so on and so forth. So you don't actually have to memorize them as much as know how to find them. But we're going to use those numbers again today. So first things first, questions that you have to ask yourself. Are there any numbers? Okay, we need to simplify those numbers first. This is what we did yesterday. Okay, this was Unit 2, Lesson 1. Okay, so that's what we did yesterday. The new part then is looking at variables. Okay, if there's no variables, then we're done. If there are variables, then we have to go ahead and simplify those. Here's how that works. You need to determine how many of each variable you actually have. So when I have x to the third, that means that I have x times x times x. I have 3 of them, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna determine how many you have, and you are going to write them all out. The important thing then is you have to circle your pairs. So like a pair is 2 of them together. We're gonna put 2 of them inside a circle. You wanna then simplify. So you're gonna look at the number of circles, and that's gonna determine the variables that you bring out, okay? Whatever ones are left are underneath the square root or the radical sign, and those are your leftovers. Then you want to combine your different parts. So when you simplified your numbers, you had a number out front, and then you had a number underneath the radical. You're going to have the same idea with the variables. You're going to have a variable out front, and then a variable underneath. So you need to put what's out front with what's out front, and what's underneath with what's underneath. So let's look at an example here and see what I'm talking about. All right, so this first one, I have the square root of x to the 7th. I don't have any numbers under there, so we're not going to simplify any numbers this time, but I need to simplify x to the 7th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out, well, x to the 7th means I have 7 x's. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What you're going to do then is you're going to go through and you're going to circle your pairs. So I have a pair here, I have a pair here, and I have a pair here. So I have 1, 2, 3 circles. So that means that I'm going to have x to the 3rd power out front of the radical. And I'm going to have the square root of the 1x that's left. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at this one. I have the square root of x to the 5th, y to the 4th. So we're going to write them out. I'm going to have x to the 5th tells me I have 5 x's. And then y to the 4th tells me I have 4 y's. So we're going to circle pairs. Now, you cannot circle an x with a y. That's not a pair. I can circle a y with a y, though. So if I look at this, I have 2 circles for x's. So I'm going to have x to the 2. And then I have the square root of just x for that. I'm going to look at my y's then. I have 2 circles, so I have y squared. So now that last step is I have to look... Sorry, let's go back to this y's. I have the square root of, there's nothing left under there. I don't have any y's left under there, so that's just nothing. So I'm going to smush them together. I have an x squared out front and a y squared out front, and then I have the square root of x with no y's left. Let's look at this example here. I have a to the 4th, so I'm going to write that out. I have 4 a's, and then I have b squared. So I have b times b. I have 2 b's. Okay, so I'm going to circle my pairs. There's a pair here and a pair here and a pair here. So when I look at my a's, I have 2 circles, so I have a squared, square root of, I don't have anything left. And then b's, I have 1 b circle, so I have a b, square root of nothing left. So now we're going to put these out front because they're both out front. So I have a squared b. And because there's nothing underneath the square roots, I'm just going to leave it this way and not even add in a square root at all. So let's take it a step up. So now we're going to look at numbers, which we know how to do because we did those in the last video, and variables. So we're going to look at the number first. So I have the square root of 32. So we're going to look at the square root of 32. Looking at your numbers, I have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. Okay, I need to figure out which number divides nicely out of 32 that is in that list. Okay, 36 isn't going to work, 25 isn't going to work, I know 16 is going to work. So I have the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. So think of before, 16 is in my list, so that's the 1, 2, 3, 4th number, so that's 4. 2 is not in my list, so I'm going to leave that as square root of 2. Now we're going to deal with the x's and the y's. So I have x to the third, I have 1, 2, 3, and y squared. Circle my pairs. So I have an x to the 1, because I have one circle, square root of x. And then I have a y to the 1, square root of nothing under there. So everything that's out front here. So if I look at what's out front, I have a 4 out front. I have the x to the 1 out front, and I have the y to the 1 out front. All of those things are going to be out front. So I'm going to 4, x, y, and x to the 1 and y to the 1 is the same thing as saying x, y. And then I have to put everything that's underneath. So I have a 2 underneath, and I have an x underneath, and then I have nothing underneath, right? So when I do this, I'm going to have 2x underneath. Let's try another one here. So I'm going to deal with the numbers first. So square root of 75. I know through looking in my list, I have 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, not 48, 49, 64, 81. Okay, so I know that 25 from my list, square root of 25 is going to be nice, and it's going to be square root of 3. So square root of 25, I know is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th number, so I'm going to have 5. Square root of 3, I cannot simplify, so it's going to stay square root of 3. So I'm going to deal with my variables. I have n to the third, so I have 1, 2, 3. Circle your pairs. So I have n to the 1, because I have one circle coming out, square root of that one left. So now we're going to simplify and put them together. So what's out front has to go with what's out front. So out front with out front, underneath with underneath. So let's do that. I have 5n out front, square root of 3n underneath. Hopefully you're seeing a pattern by now. If you have n to the anything or a variable to any power underneath the radical, you have not simplified far enough. That means that you can make another set of pairs. Let's look at our last example here. I have 16x to the 6th, y to the 4th. So we're going to start with the square root of 16. This is a nice number. It's already in my list. 1, 4, 9, 16. There it is. It's the 4th number. Square root of 16 is going to give me 4. So I'm going to do x to the 6th. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and y to the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Circle my pairs. So I have 1, 2, 3 pairs of x's, so I'm going to have x to the 3rd. And I don't have anything left over, so I'm not even going to put that square root. And then I have y to the 1, 2, because I have 2 circles of y's. And again, I don't have anything underneath. So my final answer, these are all going to be out front, is just going to be 4x to the 3rd y squared. If you have any questions, make sure to stop and chat with me before moving on to the assignment.